Hello and welcome to my channel. Here I review movies and today's film is Pulp Fiction. It's a crime drama anthology film released in 1994 about the lives of four different groups intersecting in a long and winding tale of violence and redemption. Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avary wrote the story, and Tarantino directed the film, which stars John Travolta, Samuel Jackson, Bruce Willis, Ving Rhames, and Uma Thurman. It's also got a star-studded cast of background characters and extras that you'll be surprised by. The story is really three stories, all broken up and told separately. One story follows Vincent Vega, a hitman who works for Marcellus Wallace the gangster. He's been asked by his boss to entertain Mrs. Wallace, who Marcellus is known to be violently protective of. When things go wrong, Vincent finds himself trying desperately to fix it. The second story follows Jules, Vincent's partner. After a rare lucky event during a hit, Jules finds himself questioning his job and his lifestyle. When he's thrown into a dangerous situation, he finds his new resolve tested. The final story follows Butch, a boxer who screwed up a rigged fight and made a lot of money doing it. As Butch tries to escape town with his lover, he leaves a family heirloom behind. Going back to get it ends up being more trouble than it's worth. Okay, now that I've briefly covered what the film's about, I want to address the film's positives, then I'll tackle its negatives before finally giving you some closing thoughts and a rating. Starting with the story. Pulp Fiction is a long and wacky ride that doesn't always make sense, but it is always entertaining. It brings incredibly flavorful, interesting characters to life through long, witty conversations and touching personal moments. Then it puts those characters into horrid situations and we watch them struggle to handle it. There's a little bit of everything for you to enjoy too. Romance, action, crime drama, and even a bit of comedy. It's delivered by a solid cast of actors that know how to really draw out the nuances of the story. There's Sam Jackson and John Travolta both playing mildly funny, charismatic hitmen. Ving Rhames plays a scary badass gangster, and Uma Thurman is his eccentric actress wife. Bruce Willis plays a fiery boxer with a sentimental streak, and Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer are low-level criminals resembling Bonnie and Clyde. Each of them gets to take part in amazing long-form conversations about everyday life and how they go about their jobs, and it leads to some wonderful character-building moments. There's also a lot of dramatic tension between the characters that leads to some intimidating standoffs, and there's a few big emotional outbursts. The two big standouts for me were John Travolta as Vincent Vega and Bruce Willis as Butch. Each of them takes on a larger share of the film's story, and both of their characters end up being the most nuanced. Vega is a drug-addicted hitman, and Travolta plays his high moments incredibly well. He does a fantastic job of Vega's emotional journey, and he's so charming while doing it that you can ignore his meathead tendencies. The scene of him and his friend arguing over who gives the shot is both hilariously down-to-earth and filled with iconic lines. Bruce Willis's Butch isn't as vocal as Vega, but Willis still does an incredible job with the emotional journey anyway. His physical acting was great at getting across the unsaid feelings that his character has, and he was great at playing a character that is both extremely flawed but still honorable on some level. The visual journey is colorful, easy to follow along with, and full of complex shots that capture the story in an aesthetically pleasing manner. There's great locations like the theme diner for them to have conversations in, and they manage to frame the conversations in a way that captures the characters' emotions well. It doesn't always hold up, but generally looks pretty good for a 30-year-old film. It's also filled with catchy, fun songs that create a thriving and flavorful atmosphere. There's a little bit of rock and roll, some blues, and a bit of folk music. The music tends to come in for short bursts, add a big chunk of flavor to the scene, and then dips out during conversations. It adds a bit of light entertainment when it shows up. Okay, now that we've been through all the parts I like, it's time to address the film's flaws and what doesn't hold up. First of all, the story is told in one of the most confusing manners possible. There really wasn't a good reason to chop the stories up the way they did, and the way they presented them feels disjointed and ruins the overall story a bit. For example, there is a major character death that happens in the middle of the film. That story then finishes, and the next story includes that major character in it. It was clear the story was jumping back in time, but it wasn't clear why it was happening. There also aren't any big visuals that really set the film apart from other films. It's just a lot of nice looking locations and simple but effective conversations. There's very few visual gags or big action moments, and when they do happen, they appear kind of cheap. Like when Jules and Vincent fire their guns and there's no recoil or bullets. It doesn't look real. The green screen scenes are also especially egregious. There's 2 5-minute long scenes in the car that just look awful. They don't look like they're actually driving, and the scene behind them looks like they had their children painted in. The music also isn't doing much for the emotional journey. It's there to add a bit of flavor, and that's about it. It isn't making tense moments any more tense, and the music doesn't actually add anything to the story. The closest it comes is during character building moments when we get to see the characters having fun. Overall, I really enjoyed the film, but it's not quite as amazing as I remembered. The story is chopped up in a weird way that I don't like, and I don't think it makes for good storytelling. Despite that, the film has wonderful characters, a lot of iconic fun lines, and a great atmosphere that's hard to forget. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 7 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye.